Good morning, folks. Welcome to our Idaho office. By the way, we'll be doing a lot of videos a couple months from now from our Africa Lodge, which I will call our Africa office. And we'll be able to talk about different things in Africa than we're talking about in Idaho. I want to do this video about something that I probably spend more outdoor time doing than anything else, and I call it woods bumming. Woods bumming is just going out in the woods and goofing around. More than half the time I have Kim with me because we just go out and goof around, whether we're riding horses or going fishing or hiking. I mean, we take some incredible hikes up on the Continental Divide, and which is just 1.5 miles behind our house. We woods bum a lot. Well, there are certain guns that I use for woods bumming. Now, if I lived in West Virginia, my needs would be very different than living here on the Continental Divide on the Montana-Idaho state line. Here we have grizzlies. You know, West Virginia, you might have a few black bears. I mean, I don't need much of a rifle to dissuade a black bear, but a grizzly's a different story. So where you live and where you woods bum should determine the rifles that you use or the handguns that you use. And this little video is gonna be just on the rifles we use. So my major concern is Kim and I hike a lot. I feel responsible for Kim's safety. If it was just me out there, I wouldn't worry too much. I just, if a bear kills me, hey, it was a great death, But with my wife, I always feel responsible for less powerful or less capable people when they're with me. They're my duty. And so the rifles I carry reflect that. So let's start with, again, these are the most used woods bumming rifles I have. I can use a lot of things for woods bumming. These are what I go back to all the time. First is a 9.3 by 62. This is an old J.P. Sauer and Son, made in Germany. Really a cool rifle. The metal smithing they did in those days, they didn't have CNC machines. This barrel starts out as octagon, then converts to round. You'll notice, the machining. I don't know how you beat the old Germans at some of the hand machining they did. It's unbelievable. This rifle, being a Mauser Action, is controlled round feed. You'll notice I have an aperture rear and a white line blade. Can you see that blade, babe? That's for quick acquisition in low light. If I get in dark timber or if it's dusk, I like the white line front, the big wide aperture rear. It's very fast and it's very precise. The 9.3 by 62 is powerful enough for our grizzlies here. If I get in a bad situation and I have to whack a grizzly, this cartridge is powerful enough for that job, at least for these interior grizzlies we have here. The males rarely get above 600 pounds. I've seen them as big as 900 pounds. Yeah, this is more of a he's smaller, but this is more of an interior grizzly. They're faster, they're hungrier, they're meaner than your big coastal bears that get to live on salmon almost year round. That's why they weigh 1,200 pounds as opposed to 300 pounds. They get huge. So, woods bumming gun, there it is. I carry this one a lot. This is probably my favorite of the four I'm going to show you. It may not be the one I carry the most though. Now there's a place for telescopic sights in woods bumming. Again, I have to be, no matter where I go in these mountains, I have to be concerned about grizzly bears. Well, I'm not afraid of grizzlies, and I don't see them every time I go out by any means. But I've also tangled with them. I've killed several. They're just not something you want to screw around with. So this rifle, and that's why I choose the rifles I choose. This rifle is a 338-06. It's in the very same power range as the 9.3 by 62 I just showed you. This one has a little 2.5 to 8 loophole on it, and the barrel's only 19 inches long. This I carry when I take a horse. That's why the short barrel. I actually had this rifle made just for putting on a horse and going places. And I've killed, this doubles as a hunting rifle if I want it to, out to say 300 yards. And I've killed bears. I've killed so much stuff. I know I've killed bears with it. Kim watched me shoot a bear with it one day when we were out riding horses. Anyway, again, it's a Winchester controlled round feed. It's the original pre-64 style action, although this is a new Winchester action, and by new I mean 1990s. That's when I had this made. My next woods bumming rifle. Oh, I got to tell you a story first. Just happened last week with this rifle. A friend came over elk hunting. He killed a nice 6-point bull, and I guided him into an area he'd never seen before. I want to start sharing some of my secret honey holes with younger people. This kid's 31, but he's a true outdoorsman, and he will hunt the rest of his life. And I know these places that no one goes that are incredible hunting spots. So I took him up into one of them. He killed a nice 6-point bull on our second day. Saw bulls every day. But when we went back to pack out the elk, there was a grizzly sow and a cub on the elk quarters. And I was carrying this rifle in my hand. I was leading pack horses. It was pretty steep terrain. And with this rifle, I felt comfortable. I know if I whack a grizzly, especially a smaller sow who's probably going to be in the 400-pound range or something, it's gonna really seriously hurt them. So carry what your environment has already determined you should carry. This is the smallest caliber woods rifle I carry, and it's just an everyday bumming rifle. It's a 30-06, and around here I just don't carry anything smaller. This has an older Weaver Grand Slam scope on it. It's fine. It's just fine as a woods bumming gun. I've killed a number of critters with it, mostly crows and coyotes, because when I carry it, that's what I end up shooting stuff with. So this has killed a lot of coyotes. My next bumming rifle, again, we go to iron sights. Same thing, large rear aperture, and if my camera woman can see that white line sight, that kind of a sight is very, very fast acquisition, and it's very precise. This is a Marlin, one of the weather impervious ones. I've got, I want to say 8 Marlin 4570s. They're very, very useful. But this one is the one that I use when I'm just out kicking around. I don't have to ever wipe it down with oil. It's all stainless. The stock is laminate wood. It's weather impervious. Carry it a ton. Have I killed stuff with it? Yes. And every one of these guns that I carry as a woods bumming gun has seen a lot of use, because I'm woods bumming all summer and fall and spring. And I mean, we live right here. I don't even have to drive to get into grizzly bears or black bears or wolves or moose or elk. They're right out our back door. I mean, this time of year especially, this is toward the end of October, we've got elk out here every day. They migrate in from Montana's Big Hole. So these guns have been used a ton, and they come from My choices here come from decades of experience, but these are the guns I use for woods bumming. Now, I want to talk to you about the guns my wife uses for woods bumming. Normally, Kim is with me, so Kim doesn't have to carry something that she can crush a grizzly bear with at 5 feet. I'm there, and I'll get it done, way before she would anyway, even if she was carrying a big gun. So let's talk about the guns that Kim's toting around with her on just an everyday average get out in the woods. Just our driveway. Our driveway is 1.25 miles long. We have no neighbors. We encounter bear, elk, deer, wolves, moose, a lot of moose on our driveway.
Mountain lion.
What's that?
Mountain lion.
Oh yeah, there's mountain lion here too. In fact, she's watched me chase them through the sagebrush. And we see them right on our driveway. I mean, they bury kills right beside our driveway. It's a really cool place to live until you need doctor appointments or something. Then you got to drive 3 hours one way. But anyway, here's the guns that Kim carries. And again, her situation is different than mine. Even though we're in the same area, she has me with her. This is a Ruger 1022. Again, you'll notice most of these scopes are loopholes. This has a 2.5 to 8 Vari X3 loophole on it as well. This is one of Ruger's target models. See that big fat heavy barrel? I chose that big fat heavy barrel on purpose. This was the first rifle I ever bought for Kim when we very first got married. In fact, probably before we got married. And that heavy barrel is there to strengthen her arm out here, because we do a lot of offhand shooting, and that's a skill set all its own. And I wanted her, because 22s are so handy, they don't cost anything to shoot. You don't need hearing protection with a rifle. They're not loud enough to bother your ears. You can shoot them all day long. There's no recoil to be concerned about. And so 22s are a great place to get practice and to learn. And anyone who's going to start out, and I mean anybody, man, woman, child, if you're going to start out getting into guns and shooting, you need a couple 22s, one rifle, one handgun. They're indispensable, and you can get a lot done with a 22. I mean, I've killed deer with them. Had a friend that killed an elk with one day.
Grizzly.
Well, yeah, for decades, the biggest Alaska brown bear killed was killed by an Eskimo woman with a 22. You can get a lot done with 22s. Everybody should have one, and you should have 5,000 to 10,000 rounds of ammo stockpiled at least. And you'll think I'm a nut, but I have over 200,000 rounds of 22 stockpiled. And Buffalo Bore doesn't make rimfire. We only make center fire. I stockpile. I have to, because with our government and our society, I mean, men don't even know if they're girls or men anymore. You know what? In a society like that, stockpile ammo. Everything can go sideways in a society like we've created now. Okay, my wife's next most used woods bumming rifle, and you'll see this rifle in a few of our other videos as well. This is a little Savage 110 chambered in .243 Winchester. It's just so usable for coyotes and all the stuff that the federal government has protected, like hawks. You know, we used to raise rabbits and chickens here. We couldn't keep a rabbit or a chicken alive to adulthood because of all the golden eagles, all the bald eagles, all the hawks, all the owls. And so eventually, if we were going to move on with our lives and do things that we need to do, like raise chickens and rabbits, we had to figure a way around that. And I'm going to leave it at that. But it's interesting that the federal government protects all the predators, all of them. It's really an interesting situation, folks. Anyway, a little 243.
Read up on the Endangered Species Act.
Yeah. We'll do more politics in the future, but your federal government ain't your friend, and it hurts me to say that. Anyway, 243 has so many uses. I mean, mostly varmints, but Kim has killed a bear with this. She killed a black bear with it. And I've killed black bears with 243s in the past. Certainly adequate for deer, under 300 yards. Our deer here are big. I mean, our mule deer can be 300 plus pounds, the big bucks, pretty easily. Anyway, again, if I didn't point it out, you'll notice Leupold scopes. I think the Leupold Vari-X 3s, I think now they're calling them 3 HD. I think they're the best bang for the buck anywhere in the scope world. Their optics are excellent. I own dozens and dozens and dozens of Vari-X 3s, and they're all mounted on rifles. I've been using them for 40 years. Now, for those times where Kim isn't going to be hiking with me, and this is a fairly new acquisition that I put together for Kim. This is a Rossi Model 92 chambered in 454 Casull. Again, iron sights, a very large rear aperture. That's a Skinner sight. The front sight, I think, is the factory Rossi sight. I had this cut a little shorter for Kim and a good soft recoil pad put on it. This rifle weighs 5.5 pounds, the way it sits. I mean, very handy, a little 16.5-inch barrel, but with Buffalo Bore item 7C, which it shoots really good. In fact, it shoots all 454 ammo I've tried in it well enough for a little carry defense gun in the woods. And by the way, that reminds me of something. Everybody goes for defense. They keep talking defense. Well, they mean two-legged defense, but they don't specify. Here, when we talk defense, it's not necessarily two-legged. I mean, we live in an area where there's a couple of species that can do you in fairly easily. So defense in grizzly country is a lot different than defense in downtown Chicago. Very different things. So when I talk about defense, it's usually animals, and I'm fully aware that anything I can kill a grizzly with, if need be, I can kill a human with, because there's all kinds of human predators running around out there too. So anyway, this is a 454. She gets 7 very fast shots with this, and out of a carbine, the 454 Casull is a different animal than out of a revolver. And even out of a revolver, it's pretty capable woods cartridge for killing grizzly. But when you put it in a carbine and stack another 300 feet a second velocity on top of what it would do out of a revolver, you have a seriously powerful weapon. Kim can carry this all day long. If she gets in a jam, this will take grizzlies down with a plumb. But I'm a training freak, and I'll just admit right here on the video, I haven't had time yet to train Kim very well with this. When Kim and I are done working on all the ins and outs of how to manipulate a lever action properly and aperture sights properly and how to do all that, she'll be a pro. And it may just be the case that someday she saves my life with this. I'm way too cocky around the dangerous animals, and I'm aware of this. I have a lot of confidence, and so the animals can sense that, and it's true confidence. I'm not faking it, but the animals sense it, and usually when I come around with my bad attitude, even the grizzlies, they're like, "See ya," but that's not always going to be the case, and there's always those extreme rogues out there that would just as soon kill you as look at you. There's a few of those running around these hills. And so maybe someday Kim will save my life for this. So when Kim and I go through these training sessions with different kinds of rifles, it's just a life insurance policy for me and her. And I have to comment that I think all of us should probably take firearm handling and training a little more seriously. These guns are inanimate. They only work as well as the person that has control of them. And I would advise the best training that you can get, which is why, again, I advocate owning a couple 22s. You can shoot them all day long for a few bucks. So when Tiger Woods' wife went after him with a golf club, did the media bother to call that golf club violence? There's stabbings every day, probably hundreds of them in America. I've never heard the term knife violence. People get murdered with automobiles all the time, intentionally murdered. I've never heard the term vehicle violence. So let's quit being subjects of their engineering. Okay, gun violence is violence. If I kill you with a hammer or a gun, you're just as dead. There's no difference. Sure, guns can make it easier and more convenient, so we just move on to bombs or something like that. Plus, you're never going to get the guns out of the hands of all people. It's not going to happen, nor should it. We all have a right to defend ourselves and our loved ones. I have a right to defend innocent people. I would take a bullet for an innocent person if that's what I had to do to keep them alive, try to avoid being in that situation. Gun violence is a misnomer. Well, you know what? It's a lie. Gun violence is a lie. Let's just call it what it is. It's an intentional lie. Anyway, these are our woods bumming guns for being on the Idaho-Montana state line, on the Continental Divide, in some pretty serious wilderness. These are what we use. The next video I want to do on woods bumming guns is the ones I use in Alaska. I used to spend a lot of time in Alaska. I haven't been up there for a couple of years now. The last time I went, I took Kim Alaska brown bear hunting. She killed a beautiful bear. But I've got guns that I use in Alaska that are very different than what I use here. In Alaska, I've got 1,700-pound moose. The wrong time of year, when these bears are at their biggest, like in the fall, I killed one that was probably 1,700 or 1,800 pounds in the fall. I killed him in the spring. We figured he was 1,200 in the spring anyway, probably more. He's one of the all-time biggest bears ever killed since they've been keeping records. But so next, I'll show you what I use in Alaska. And when we get to Africa and I have access to all my Africa rifles, I'll show you my woods bumming guns in Africa. Again, I woods bum 95% of my time in the outdoors is woods bumming. So these guns get used a lot. A woods bumming gun is a really important part of your firearms battery. It'll get the most use. Now, I realize not everybody lives as remotely as we do, but you're a short drive away from rural areas almost no matter where you are in America. So anyway, hope you enjoy the outdoors, have fun out there, be safe, and God bless. Thank you.